Hello, this is Hunter for the Guitar Blog, episode 1. It is Sunday, July 7th, 2:14 p.m. here in sunny Santa Fe. So a number of years ago, I did a Mandolin Blog series, and I kind of just looked over some of those videos recently and thought, man, that was cool. Maybe not for anybody else, but I had a good time doing them. It was good to have a log of the kind of stuff that I was thinking about and working on at the time. And, it's just fun for me to kind of go back to and reflect. And it was useful, even though I didn't end up continuing to play the mandolin. I don't even have one anymore. That's how that goes. I had to do a lot of bumping and bouncing around to different instruments for a long time before I finally decided, the guitar is really the thing that I want to dedicate my time to. And if I really want to get any good at it, I have to focus. I still have a banjo and a piano and a bass and all kinds of fun stuff. It's neat to mess around with, but I've dedicated myself to the guitar, at least for now, right? Everything can and probably will change, including the regularity of this blog. This is just for me, pretty much, but if anybody watches it and happens to want to participate in the conversation or just, tell me whatever they want to tell me, then we could do that. Feel free to participate. But it's mainly just for me. And so the big thing is jazz. It's been my focus for the past 3 years or so. I remember going to take guitar lessons. I was self-taught for a number of years, and then took some lessons from a really, really great teacher who really just kind of like opened my eyes to, how much I did not know. I could get pretty far with what I did know, but I really was, very naive, very green. So anyway, he was instrumental in helping me bone up on the theory and a lot of the scales and chord shapes and stuff. Just kind of see the guitar. I don't want to say like academically, because that seems like it's boring and takes the fun out of it, but it's like, I don't know, to understand it, I guess, more fundamentally. And to become more serious as a player and somebody who cares about practicing and, has goals and stuff like that. It's not just a thing I pick up and noodle around on anymore. It's something that I care about and devote lots of time to and want to continue to. But one thing I remember is going in and kind of going, well, what do I want to do? I want to play jazz, I guess, because I want to be a well-rounded guitar player. And when I think about that, I think jazz is like the vehicle that you use to become well-rounded, because you can't, maybe you argue with this, but you can't really play jazz unless you know your shit. There's a lot of stuff to know. You don't have to know it all in order to get started, but there's a healthy amount that you do need to know, to be able to play competently. And anybody who's been playing for any amount of time with jazz will tell you that they feel like beginners, right? They're learning all the time, picking up new stuff, are constantly hitting walls and having to figure out how to get around them or tear them down or whatever. And so I'm doing that too, and I'm trying to just in general become somebody who gleans more satisfaction and joy from the process rather than getting so focused on the results. And I think that's a healthy way to be in your life in general, outside of, music specifically. But anyway, the journey is the destination and all that stuff. So, but the point is, when I was talking to him, I was thinking like, oh, let's do jazz, because once I know that, I can do anything. That is not a good goal, I found out. I did certainly learn a lot. And so I'm thankful for that. And I guess that was a good goal to have for just kind of getting a broad knowledge base. Building up technique and stuff, but I didn't have much of a passion for it at the time. I didn't listen to a lot of jazz, so I wasn't picking up the vocabulary, which is pretty important, extremely important. And anyway, now fast forward however many years later, I do care about jazz, and not just academically. Like, I listen to it, I go see shows when I can. I played in a jazz trio for a little while. Then I moved, and I'm trying to get something new together. I play every week with some guys in town. and it's something I care about and I'm working on, trying to stay focused on as well. So that's been my focus, and to me right now that means basically just comping and soloing over standards, pretty much. Not worrying about writing my own stuff or getting too far into the weeds. They're just kind of picking, popular tunes from the olden days, from the Real Book series, and playing them. What's really nice is that it's kind of it's a song book that you can bring to any jam or any group, and likely somebody there knows at least some songs out of that, or at least you've got the book that's got all the tunes in it, so you can just throw it on the music stand and go, all right, let's figure this out. I can read the melody, read the chords, and just see, kind of figure it out through that. Because I haven't heard a lot of these songs. I actually have heard a lot of them, but I haven't, I haven't memorized them as far as their melodies go and stuff like that. But anyway, so to me that means being able to put a tune in front of me, be able to read it. So I'm reading standard notation, getting used to doing that more and more and more, so it's quicker and easier playing in different positions. Be able to tackle the harmony competently, which to me means not just playing root position chords and having to jump all over the neck, but have in various inversions, different voicings, in lots of different areas, so that I can connect the chords in a melodic way using voice leading. I want to sound like I want the chord part to kind of stand on its own and be pretty musical all by itself. And then, of course, improvising over those changes, which is the thing that I'm definitely struggling with the most. And that's the most difficult, lifelong type of thing, of those three. It feels like it's much more conceivable to get really, really good at reading and be able to just read down any tune, no problem. And then to get really good at voice leading and playing chords, not that you can't infinitely improve that, but there's kind of like a point where you could do it pretty well, and it's not impossible to imagine. But improvising is, so subjective, highly creative, and that's the whole part of what makes it fun and interesting. And that's something that I don't think you ever really master. You just kind of work on it. And part of that is becoming less critical of yourself, just listening more, having more fun, trying to get to where you're having fun playing, even if it's, if what's coming out is not amazing or up to your standard. So the thing with the jam that I go to is that we do play some of the same songs, but we're not a band, so we don't have the same people every week, and we don't rehearse tunes the same way that the trio I was in did. We would pick a few songs and we would work on them every single week until we had them memorized. And really, I think that's the better way to do it. I mean, you're going to build a vocabulary. You're going to feel better about what you're doing because you're progressing through understanding and memorizing a tune. But then you go to a jam, at least the way that our jam works, we just kind of go around and everybody picks a tune and then we play it. So it doesn't matter if you know it or not. You just go, all right, turn to page whatever, and let's do it. Count it off and let's go. So, part of that is like trying not to beat myself up, because that's a hard thing to do. Like if somebody says, here's the sheet music and 3, 2, go, you have to read it and play it without sometimes even ever having heard the song. You don't know how it goes at all. And now you're performing it, in front of others. Part of this whole thing has been like my self-esteem and just getting used to going, this is a very hard thing. We're all just trying to have fun. Don't get so beat up if you flub something or if you can't, play amazingly over a tune you've never even heard, because it's not reasonable to expect that you could. But that being said, there are certainly things you can do to kind of get through a tune like that. Building up your vocabulary, seeing, recognizing common progressions, having something that you can play over that, learning to play less when you don't have a lot of things to play, especially over faster tempos, and then of course with the chords and comping and stuff, being able to kind of pick that up and improvise that pretty readily. So that's the kind of stuff I'm working on, and this is a good time to start this blog thing, because I'm been a lot more diligent lately about sitting down, taking the time to create goals for myself, both long-term and short-term, or taking the long-term goal and breaking it into pieces like I've talked about, and then breaking that into further pieces and getting very practical about it. Like, okay, these are the things I want to work on, sort of umbrella, and then here's the specific thing that when I sit down, I'm going to do this with my hands. And that's something that I often neglect because it's hard, right? You sit down and you go, all right, how do I get better at comping? How do I improve my voice leading? Well, you got to do something. And it's not always clear what that is. So it's a hard process. But it's extremely important because when you sit down and you've got an hour to practice or whatever, you don't want to be spending any of that time trying to think about what you should practice. It's time to work. Like, I don't want to be asking too many questions or fumbling for finding something to work on. I need to just spend that time working. So that's what I've been trying to do. And then breaking that down into, okay, I'm only going to work on this for this amount of time, this % of my practice session, because I want to get to these other things and I don't want to neglect them. I want to kind of get a broader overview of a lot of different things and keep those going. So then, starting now, this is like the beginning of a new week coming up. So Sunday's kind of a nice day for reflection, and I've got the time to do this kind of stuff and set myself up for the week, and then check in maybe every Sunday. No promises, but maybe it'd be nice to do every week. Just kind of, rather than like writing down all the stuff, like, all right, here's how this week went, and then doing long form journaling or whatever, which I don't really feel like doing. I thought I'd just kind of capture it and then also do some playing on the video, mainly for my own self. I can look back a few weeks or months and go, hey, yeah, I'm getting better. That'll be good for me. And like I said, you can join in too if you're in this kind of thing. There's another YouTube account. I cannot remember the guy's name, but I think it's like Jazz Scrapbook or something like that. Whoever the guy is, I really like the stuff that he does because he's teaching and he plays and he's thinking about stuff and he goes, hey, here's the thing I was thinking about, and it's very off the cuff kind of blog style. And it's good. You pick up little tidbits here and there. Sometimes you don't, but it's still fun to watch. And I'm sure for him it's extremely valuable as a scrapbook to go back and go, oh yeah, that was working on this stuff. And I can hear the progress that I've made or whatever. Anyway, so probably going forward I'll be focusing more on standards and like demonstrating or practicing, like running through one and going, I'm working on arpeggios this week and here's the thing, and trying to just kind of demonstrate that as the log for myself. To start off with, the thing that I've been working on most recently is actually not strictly jazz. I'm a big fan of Julian Lodge. He's been very influential to me, and one thing I really like is that he is a jazz guitar player. He's considered jazz, but he's all over the place. He plays beautiful classical guitar, bluegrass guitar. He's really into pop music. You can hear those influences when he plays solos. He's extremely melodic. Like, you can sing his solos. They're not crazy technical or really, really fast unnecessarily. He's always got an ear for strong melody, good phrasing, good timing, all that kind of stuff. He's just very, very good. And he's got a great record called World's Fair, which is all solo acoustic guitar, almost all original compositions. And he's got a tune called... so what I'm trying to do long term is learn all of the tunes from that. And I have got the first 4 of them learned. I recorded myself playing them. I have already forgotten the second and the third one for the most part, but 4 is fresh on my mind, which is Ryland. He eventually re-recorded this with his trio on Arclight, which was his electric thing. But I'll be playing the one from the acoustic one, even though I'm playing on electric. Anyway, so that's it for this week. Guitar Blog, episode 1. We'll see where this goes. Anyway, here's Ryland, as best I can remember it and play it right now. Oop, off to a bad start. All right, thanks guys. See you next week.